Harvard Business Review has been good to me, so I should explain that it's not just HBR readers who are prone to this kind of overestimation. I've now repeated this exercise with probably 100 different groups around the world. And in no case has any group ever underestimated one of these flows. The tendency is always towards overestimation, or what I neutrally refer to as globaloni. And so widespread is this tendency towards globaloni that before we get on to its consequences and how to avoid them, it might be useful to ask ourselves, where does this come from? Because if everywhere around the world people are overestimating these things, there probably has to be a reason, or in fact, several reasons. So let's think about what the bases of globaloni are. First of all, there's a real lack of data. And let me give you an anecdote to explain what I mean. When I first presented some of the data on the previous slide in a magazine called Foreign Policy, one of the people who wrote in, very upset, was Tom Friedman. And since my article was titled, "Why the World Isn't Flat," this wasn't too surprising. What did surprise me was Tom's criticism. He said, Ghemawat's data are narrow. This perplexed me a great deal, because when I look at the world as flat, here's a book nearly 500 pages long without a single figure, table, chart, reference, or footnote. So I haven't presented much data on the previous slide, but I presented more data than you'll find in all of the world is flat. And if you aren't convinced by the data that I present, I'd urge you to go away and try and figure out what kind of data you would find convincing, and then go look for that data. Because otherwise, I think we'll be operating in a data-free zone. And as we've seen from the previous slide, that tends to lead to exaggeration. So that's one reason why we get overestimates. Globalization is something that we all think we know something about from our daily lives. We feel no obligation to start with or return to the data. As a result, there's a disconnect from reality that persists around a lot of these matters.